Here you are, BPMs high, sweat dripping, body moving, tongue panting. You're working hard, real hard, and you're thirsty. You need vitamins, nutrients for peak performance and energy. And your plants do too. Aw, I mean, just look at the little guy. Water-soluble plant food from Miracle Grow is full of essential nutrients. Just a little scoop into your watering can and boom, instant feeding and bigger, more beautiful plants. It's kind of like a sports drink for your plants. You may have to suffer from heat, but your plants do not.
This episode of the D-Lew podcast is brought to you by Goli Nutrition. As someone who's used Goli for quite some time, I can tell you that they're not only very good, but they're very beneficial. My favorite are the Super Green Gummies. The Super Green Gummies are uniquely crafted with a spectrum of essential nutrients such as vitamins A, B12, folic acid, and thiamine. It supports a healthy liver function, healthy nervous and immune system, digestive health, a boost to your metabolism, and overall health and well-being. There are no artificial sweeteners, flavors, or colors from artificial sources. They're vegan-friendly, gluten-free, and gelatin-free. All loyal listeners of the D-Lew podcast get a special 10% discount at checkout. Go to Goli.com, use promo code DLEW. That's Goli.com, use promo code DLEW. This podcast is a Believe Network and Siete production. Welcome to another edition of the D-Lew podcast, brought to you by Believe Network. I'm your host, Derrick T. Lewis. I hope the week is treating you greatly. I'm actually recording this a few days earlier. By the time you get this in your whatever device you listen to this podcast on, got a crazy busy week ahead, so I figure I would get this episode out of the way. You know, this past weekend's Monster Factory Monster Mash was incredibly good, really good. Kudos to 4 fans actually from Baltimore, Maryland area that came up to watch our show this past weekend. I couldn't believe it. They actually watched us at the Baltimore Taco Festival a few weeks back, and I had explained to them about, hey, we have an event coming up on the 21st, and they bought tickets. They said they were going to buy tickets. I'm like, okay, we'll see. And then they literally showed up in their Hawaiian shirts in homage of our very own God of Dad by DK Lewis. So huge kudos to them and for all the fans that came out to support, this past weekend, for Monster Mash. And of course, it's leading up to Monster Factory's annual, if you can call it our WrestleMania, Turkey Slam, which takes place on November the 18th at a 4 p.m. start. Tickets are on sale now at monsterfactory.org. I'm in a good mood because the Patriots won this weekend and they beat the Buffalo Bills. I can't believe it. I mean, again, I'm not giving up on my team, but we looked pretty bad the last few weeks. I'm not gonna lie to you. And I would just put out on Twitter, I hate football, but I love football again. So good win. It was a good comeback win. Showed what we're made of, and hopefully this can we could pile on some wins and see what happens hopefully in the second half of this season. But this week, Gabi is back on the show. Anytime I'm doing wrestling, Gabi's going to be on. And Impact Wrestling just had her event, Bound for Glory, out in Chicago. And they announced that the previous name of the company, TNA, Total Nonstop Action, is back, baby, 2024. And their first event, their first pay-per-view next year, Hard to Kill, will be the first event under the TNA umbrella. I'm really excited about it. And me and Gabi talk about, we recap, Bound for Glory, and we talk about the past, the present, and the future of TNA/Impact Wrestling. And let's not wait any longer. My chat with Gabi about TNA starts right now. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it gives me great pleasure to bring back once again the one and only Gabi. Thank you so much for coming on. How are you?
I'm great. How are you? Thanks for having me. I always appreciate our time together when we get to chat wrestling.
Absolutely. I'm doing great. Thank you for asking. I appreciate that. Well, in case you've been hiding under a rock, if you've been on planet Mars, or if they're trying to colonize the moon or something like that, Impact Wrestling will be rebranded to its original name, TNA, Total Nonstop Action. It was at the end of their pay-per-view this past Saturday, Bound for Glory, that took place in Chicago. There was I think a 4-minute video of something like that. And, there was wrestlers in the ring, and it just said, "We are TNA." And, the fans were chanting TNA, TNA. So I have, fond memories, of TNA. We'll talk about the history of it. But let's talk about Bound for Glory first so we can get through that. And then we can kind of just go back into the time machine, so to speak, and talk about TNA. Bound for Glory, again, took place in Chicago. Over 2,500 fans that was there. I know the dark match was MK Ultra. It was for the Knockouts World Tag Team Championship. It was Killer Kelly and Masha Slamovich defeated Deonna Purrazzo and Tasha Steelz. My two Jersey girls and my two Patriot fans. They unfortunately were not able to get the titles. But the pay-per-view starts off with Chris Sabin defending the X Division Championship against Kenta by a pinfall. When I think of Kenta, obviously, he does his little pot shots at someone from Chicago, but just a few years ago, he was in the WWE.
And he is doing great. He is one of the people who was able to, I hate the expression, grab the brass ring, but he was one of the people to just leave the WWE and was like, you know what? It's fine. I'm going to do great things without the WWE. And he has. His matches with Lio Rush have been chef kiss, just a phenomenal talent.
Yeah, because he had renamed himself Hideo Itami. When he got the NXT, he wanted a whole new rebrand. And I just never figured it was injuries, obviously, that was happening. And it's just one of those things. But I'm glad he's flourishing, all across the indies. I know he had to stop in AEW at one point and all those other things. So I'm glad he's able to still get around and work. And that's awesome. And obviously getting in there, with the Sabin, who's who of when it comes to, when I think about the X Division from back in the day, I think of Chris Sabin for sure. There's the Monsters Ball match. When I think of Monsters Ball, I think that there's only one, the one and only Abyss. But PCO defeated Moose, Rhino, and Steve Macklin. And mind you, Steve Macklin, was just the Impact World Champion. I wonder, are they still gonna do something with PCO, or you think they're gonna basically do something just mainly in the realm of something like this?
I don't know. It honestly could go one way or another. I think it was a very interesting group of gentlemen in that match.
Yeah,
for sure. It kind of seemed like, hey, who's not doing anything right now? All right, throw them in this match, because it just is a very interesting pairing. I mean, the match worked, but I'm not sure where they go with him moving forward.
Right. I mean, because again, for those that know or don't know, PCO once upon a time was Pierre in WWE, and he was Jean-Pierre Lafitte, aka the pirate that stole Bret the Hitman Hart's jacket. And now he's like the invincible PCO, where it's like you can run him over with a car, you can blow him up with a stick of dynamite, and he'll still come back fighting. I mean, good grief. But I mean, and honestly, like I said earlier, obviously Abyss, that was his signature match, you know what I mean? So just to be able to get a guy like PCO, and kind of take the baton, so to speak, to do those type of matches is still cool to pay homage to the past. For the Impact World Tag Team Championships, you had ABC, which consists of the champions Chris Bay and Ace Austin. They defeated the Radicals, Zachary Wentz and Trey Miguel. I'm a huge fan of Chris Bay.
Same.
I'm a huge fan of his. I feel as though he could be doing, again, he's in Impact Wrestling and he's doing an incredible job. He is just so multi-talented, not just in wrestling, but he, an incredible musician as well. So I'm a huge fan of his. And I actually had a chance to meet him when I was backstage at Impact about a year and a half ago when they were in Philly. Ultra nice guy. And I'm glad that they are doing something with him, but I'm hopeful that down the road, he could be doing some other big things too. But your thoughts on that match?
I love Chris Bay. I will forever be here for him and his talent. I appreciate him in the Bullet Club.
Mm-hmm.
And I appreciate him in a tag team. I would love to see him with a solo push soon. I'm not forcing it. And I can appreciate the fact that he has said multiple times, like, he loves Impact. And while WWE is everyone's dream, he is happy in Impact. Because everyone's like, when you go into the E, when you go into the Fed. And he's like, nah, I kind of like it here. Not saying never, never saying never, rather, but I actually enjoy my time in Impact. So kudos to
Yeah.
him.
And I think, and the cool thing is, even when you work in Impact, you can still work.
You can do other things.
Absolutely. So it's good that you're still getting the TV exposure, but at the same time, still being able to work these indies. And I mean, hey, you never know what hidden gems that these guys can find too. You know what I mean? When you're working some of these other indie companies. So
That, and he can still do his music. He can focus on other things in his life. I don't know if the WWE will allow him to push his music and do what he wants to do in his personal life as much as he would like to. Because WWE, honestly, they kind of own your personal life too, whether they want to admit it or not.
Well, R-Truth, remember, R-Truth, he re-releases his music as Ron Killings, not R-Truth. So as long as you're doing it independent from them, that's on you. You know what I mean? But as long as you're not using their IP, you know, as your name, then, you know, then hey, you're kind of free to do whatever you want to do. But up next, Will Ospreay and Mike Bailey. They got a lot of time. They got almost 18 minutes. It was actually 17 minutes, 58 seconds to be exact. You know, somebody was on Twitter yesterday and they were saying that they didn't think that Bryan Danielson was the best wrestler in the world. And I chimed in. I said, well, and I asked the girl, so who do you think it is? She's like, no, who do you think? And I said, to be honest, right now, I believe it's Will Ospreay.
Mm-hmm.
I think right now, and I don't know if you remember Jericho, and he said it in a promo, but this is actually true because he actually did talk to him, where he basically told him to kind of slow down and preserve your body because it's going to burn out pretty quickly.
If you want to keep wrestling at this level 10, 20 years from now, you have to slow down. Like, you can't be out here every week like Darby Allin taking these ridiculous bumps. Like,
yeah, I know. But I mean, he put on some size, number one.
Yeah, he definitely packed on a few.
And obviously January, he's going to be probably one of the hottest. There's going to be a lot of free. Let's call it for what it is. January 2024. It's going to be
a lot of folks are coming up.
Haven. I'm telling you right now. So between AEW contracts that are coming up, and people that are in New Japan, et cetera, you know, there's going to be a lot of moving around. There's going to be a lot of moving pieces, and we'll see. I mean, it's going to be a lot of it's going to be a lot of negotiation. You know what I mean? Because and MJF is not, you know, shy about it. You know, he's basically saying he's going to go to the highest bidder. He doesn't care who it is. And rightfully so. If you know your worth, you know, you're going to say, hey, listen, I'm deserving of this price, and that's why. And I hope that Will Ospreay has that same mindset. But wherever he lands, you know, he's a great get, because I think he's a main event caliber superstar. And I feel as though that wherever he is, he's really going to bring the best out of whoever he's going to be in the ring with. Me personally, if he is at the E, would I like to see him wrestle Seth off the bat? That would be cool. But that can be later on.
You can build it.
You can build it. Because
plus, I mean, it's Will Ospreay. He can go up against anybody and have a great match. Like, let's not play this game. Yes, you obviously want to see him against like your Romans and your Seths, and you want to see him in there with like Shinsuke, sure. But like, he can also go up there with AJ Styles. He can go up there with essentially anyone on that roster and put on a great match.
I mean, let's not forget too the match that riled up Big Van Vader a few years ago. When it was the match that Ospreay had against Ricochet. And that, I mean, because that match went viral like big time. I think it was maybe 2016, 2017, I think. And Vader got a lot of heat for it, God rest his soul, but he had got heat for it from the fans because there was like, I guess from Vader's perspective, that wasn't pro wrestling to him. You know what I mean? That's not the wrestling that the business.
I was going to say that's not his pro wrestling, but if you think about when that match was, like, it was prime.
Yeah.
Prime. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know what I'm looking for here, but like, yes, in Vader's eyes, I can see where he would be like, that's that flippy dippy shit that everyone talks about, right?
Yeah, the flippy flop, right.
But like, at the end of the day, they still put on a damn good match. And yes, they had their spots. Absolutely. But here we are.
Yeah. But like I said, he did beat Mike Bailey in an incredible match. But up next was the 20-person intergender call your shot gauntlet, where the winner receives a trophy and a contract they can invoke anytime within 1 year of a championship match of their choosing. Some notable names that were in this, there's only 20. I guess I can go through all of them. There was Jake Something, Eddie Edwards, Kenny King, Juventud Guerrera, Johnny Swinger, Giselle Shaw, Jody Threat, Kylan King, Sonny Kiss, and we'll talk about that in a second. Bully Ray, Always Ready Matt Cardona, Jordan Grace, Eric Young, Joe Hendry, Brian Myers, Heath, Frankie Kazarian, Rich Swan, Jonathan Gresham, and Dirty Dango. But a few shows ago, we were talking about, Sonny Kiss and where we were thinking he was going to land. And you and I came to the consensus that Impact will be the place for him. And here we are. Total surprise.
I love it. And for once, I love actual surprises that do not get spoiled. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, I follow the dirt sheets. I'm not going to pretend like I don't. But I still love a good, genuine surprise. And I was not expecting Sonny Kiss. So, like, I was excited for number one to get surprised, because we do not get surprised anymore. And number two, Sonny Kiss. Like, absolutely. Hopefully they are able to shine and put on some great matches. Impact, or TNA, is really great with intergender wrestling. They do a great job handling Giselle Shaw, pushing her. Like, I just think that they genuinely support their talent the best way they can, unlike other companies.
Well, let's not forget too that they have women in production, and I'm talking about Gail Kim, who's one of them, and I don't know if she's there now, but I know when I went backstage about a year and a half ago, Christy Hemme was also working backstage in production. So there, you do have women that are in those spaces. That's, I think, matters. Absolutely, because as much as obviously it was a male-dominated sport, for decades, even when the Fabulous Moolah had her 28-year reign as champion or whatever the case may be, it was still a male-dominated sport, and women were just seen as a sideshow or as a special attraction.
We're the valets.
Or valets, right. So now it's like you really have these women that can go. And I remember when Gail Kim debuted in WWE and she won the title, and I was just like, oh, and I'm like, this girl can really, really go. And then the fact that, obviously her second run didn't go as well. I think she eliminated herself in that battle royal on Raw, and she just said, F it, I'm out of here. And, she definitely has found her home truly at Impact. She had those banger matches with Kong, you know what I mean? Like, those matches were incredible. So the fact that, getting back to the topic of, Sonny Kiss, the fact that you do have women in production, agents, all those things, I think that's a lesson that some of the other companies can kind of take a look at, as far as saying, okay, Impact's doing this and they're uber successful at it, and here's why. You need some women in there making decisions.
Agreed.
So again, Jordan Grace was the winner of the of that Call Your Shot intergender battle royal, and she gets to invoke her championship match within 1 year. And call me crazy, I would not be shocked if she calls her shot against whoever the TNA World Heavyweight Champion is.
I would love to see it. I think Jordan Grace is great. I think she's highly underrated. I appreciate the fact that she made the top 10 this year of PWI. I'm excited for her for that. I'm here for it.
Well, I mean, here's the thing. Number one, she's strong. I mean,
have you seen her?
Oh my God. Like, first of all, her transformation body-wise, you know what I mean? Because she was always a thick girl, and it's cool. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
But I know she was doing some fitness modeling or whatever the case, and she was doing bodybuilding.
I mean, her husband cut up too now. Like, they both
Jonathan.
They both
absolutely.
cut up.
But Jordan actually, she competed earlier this year in bodybuilding. And when you talk about, she was incredibly shredded. You know what I mean? And I was just like, I want to look like that. I'm serious. I said, I'm jealous. I want to look like that, but that's awesome. And I think with that type of look, you know what I mean? Because when Tessa Blanchard won the title, I was kind of like, I don't know. But with
Tessa's
Jordan,
never done it for me, so that's fine. I
nah.
expect that.
And I wasn't, you know what? And I wasn't even talking about her past or anything like that.
No, I'm not either. I'm talking about in general. Like even before
Yeah.
all that nonsense
I
came
was
out, like she just
yeah.
never really
No, no. And for
personality. It's
right.
lacking there.
But I feel as though with Jordan Grace, with her presence, her first of all, her look
Mm-hmm.
and her gear, which is super important, that supports that look.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, even let's just say she calls her shot for the heavyweight title, and even if she loses, the fact is that puts so much credibility on her. You know what I mean? As saying, hey, you know, anytime, any place, and someone that believable that looks the way that she does can maybe be the champion. You just never know.
Absolutely.
So let's see. We had in the semi-main. Oh, and by the way, she Jordan Grace actually threw out Bully Ray, and I
Okay,
thought
so like let's talk about that for a second.
mhm.
I appreciate the fact that Bully Ray is now being used for what he should have been used for, is to put talent over. Like Bully Ray winning matches drove me like, and I'm saying he can't win. Like that's not what I'm saying, but I'm saying the
Mhm.
fact that Bully Ray won so many matches actually drive me insane. Because like I understand like he's still got it, and I'm not saying that he shouldn't win matches, but like
Mhm.
he should at this point in his career he needs to be putting folks over,
Mhm.
and he wasn't doing that for me. So the fact that he went into this match and he put over Sonny Kiss, he put over Jordan, like he actually got his ass beat. Like I could appreciate that he's finally like, okay, I don't want championships at this point. Like
Mhm.
I need to work with the younger talent.
But I don't know if you remember the very, very first All In from 2018. They went nose to nose in that battle royal,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
which I thought was really, really cool that they were able to do that. They were able to do that and
Mm-hmm.
kind of rekindle that a little bit. You know what I mean? But yeah, I thought it was great in the fact that he was very, very selfless
Mm-hmm.
in doing so. You know what I'm saying? Because you see it all the time where you may have a veteran that I'm not putting over a woman, and I'm just like, no, because she looks like I said, she looks like she could beat a dude's ass, plain and
And
simple. I
she
mean,
did in that match. So
absolutely. So kudos, like I said, kudos to her, for winning that battle royal, and let's see what happens. You know what I mean?
she's
But
already called out Trinity, so I'm here for it.
yeah, and speaking of Trinity, nice segue, I might add. It was a co-main event. It was a Trinity against Mickey James for the
Great
Impact
match.
knockouts. Oh yeah, incredible match. They got 12 minutes, which I think you can get a lot done in 12 minutes. You know what I mean? And I'm really liking the fact that we're seeing the best version of Trinity, in my opinion, because to me, like with the previous company she was in, because again, this is not me burying the WWE, and I want to make that very,
Mm-hmm.
very clear. There are just certain things that you can and cannot do, and I just feel
Mm-hmm.
as though now that we're seeing this best version of her because she can freaking wrestle.
That, and like you said, she can creatively do what she wants. She can do some of those not as WWE moves, we'll say.
Yeah,
She's able to go out there and honestly have fun, and having fun is part of it too. Like, don't get me wrong, like, I'm not saying that no one has fun in the E. Like, that's absolutely not what I'm saying. But
right.
you can tell the difference between someone that has a match Trinity in the E versus Trinity in Impact. You can just like tell, like the matches just flow better. You can tell she's having fun and she's enjoying what she's doing. So I love that for her. And Mickey James, Mickey still
Well,
got it.
listen, Mickey, when it's all said and done, she's truly going to be. If they put the Mount Rushmore of women's wrestling, and I mean for real, and this is not being knee jerk reaction or anything like that, but if they when it's all said and done, and they're saying, okay, who are the top 4 women's wrestlers of all time? You got to put Mickey James up there.
Absolutely.
You
Not
have
even a debate.
to.
It's not even a debate.
You have to, and what I mean by that is just her body of work in every place that she's been. You know what I mean? And when she eventually hangs up the boots, you already know she has an incredible mind for the biz. I don't know if you knew or not, but when they did the women's pay-per-view for NWA, it was called Power. Oh God, I forget the name of it now. I think it was about 2 years ago. It was during the NWA. So God, it was NWA weekend, but they had it was an all women's pay-per-view with the NWA. She was the executive producer of that show. Mickie James.
Mickie James actually recently in Maryland, she teamed with Maryland have an NWA Championship of Wrestling. And they I think she put on like a clinic for people that wanted to get in the business. I believe it was like a week-long clinic or maybe 2 weeks clinic with Mickie James where she put on.
Right.
Yeah, like she's trying to help the current talent and bring up the new talent, which I can appreciate because again, like she doesn't live in Maryland. She pretty much had to be here for 2 weeks to assist other people. Like that's not in anyone's contract. Like that's not something that she wanted to do on her free time. It's something that she wanted to do to help the next person, and I can appreciate that.
She actually has a Twitter page for that, what she does, because she actually does seminars. And I followed I'm trying to look for the page now on Instagram because I actually follow it on Instagram as well as on.
I want to say she mentioned it on Busted Open that it got flagged or she got taken, something like that.
Oh no, that's why I can't find it.
Yeah, I remember her mentioning it on Busted Open that she was upset that they pulled her page when it wasn't spam. It was her promoting what she does, and they pulled it. I remember her saying that actually.
Yeah, but she definitely has, a wealth of knowledge. She's been there, she's wrestled for the big companies, and the fact that she's able to, and again, these are matches that, hey, if this was in the other company, it probably would have been cool. But I think on this stage, this gets more. I think this is going to help their viewership and I'm hoping that they get a bigger TV deal. You know what I mean? Because a lot of people, I have access TV. Unfortunately, a lot of people don't. So I think that maybe somehow, some way, maybe getting back on, was it called Paramount TV now, whatever it is, not Spike TV anymore. Getting on a station like that can, hey, listen, there's enough talent there for them to do that. But are they going to do it live? Well, we'll have to see. That is a cost. That is a hefty cost. Because I think they do maybe 3 weeks at a time. They do their TV taping. So it's a cost saving, effect. And I get that. But there's nothing like live TV wrestling, unfortunately. And if this was 40 years ago, we wouldn't be caring because no one knew that stuff was taped. But now that there's the internet and everything, that's eventually the spoilers are going to get out, et cetera, et cetera.
And that's the issue too. It's a lot of their TNA. A lot of the issue is that they tape these things and like the spoilers get out pretty much immediately. So unfortunately, with me, sometimes I don't want to watch it when I know what happens, unless there's a match on there that I'm just like, okay, I need to see this match. For the most part, if like for instance, AEW and Rampage on Friday, I don't watch that because unless it's a match on there that I want to watch because it's pre-taped, I can Google and find out what happened. I don't have to Google it, honestly. All I gotta do is log on to Twitter and it tells me because that's the thing to do these days is to tweet what happened live. So yeah, hopefully their new year, new changes will bring upon some stuff.
Definitely. This episode of the D-Lou podcast is brought to you by Goalie Nutrition. As someone who's used Goalie for quite some time, I can tell you that they're not only very good, but they're very beneficial. My favorite are the Super Green Gummies. The Super Green Gummies are uniquely crafted with a spectrum of essential nutrients such as vitamins A, B12, folic acid, and thiamine. It supports a healthy liver function, healthy nervous and immune system, digestive health, a boost to your metabolism, and overall health and well-being. There are no artificial sweeteners, flavors, or colors from artificial sources. They're vegan-friendly, gluten-free, and gelatin-free. All loyal listeners of the D-Lou podcast get a special 10% discount at checkout. Go to goalie.com, use promo code DLEW. That's goalie.com, use promo code DLEW. And of course, in the main event was Alex Shelley defending the Impact World Championship against Josh Alexander. That match goes 22 minutes, 32 seconds. I was very surprised that because again, I was talking about Steve Macklin earlier because he dropped the title so quickly to Alex Shelley. I'm like, I said, this is like, wow. And I did not expect that. And he's having a lengthy title run, you know what I mean? And obviously Josh Alexander was a former champion in his own right. So, great match, by two, grizzled old veterans. But again, I think it's cool, when you have, so much experience in one company, and that's the key. It's not a lot. Like if you notice, like people that are in, like Impact, these are people that have been doing this for a while.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
You have a good mix of newbies, like you got your Chris Bays, and then you also have like your veterans, like your Bully Rays that are running around. And I can appreciate it because it gives the younger talent a chance to learn and do more and take it back to the old school. Sometimes like, yeah, the flippy dippy shit's great, but sometimes like old school mechanical
Telling a
wrestling.
story, telling a story.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and it's crazy. Danny Cage, my coach at Monster Factory, says it all the time, constantly, where wrestling is a whole lot more than just moves. It is, because listen, somebody can do a freaking 450 off the top of a ladder, get the holy shit pop, and then what else?
Mm-hmm.
Like, okay, what else? And then now you're desensitizing fans of, like, they've seen that spot already. Then if you do it again later on in the night, it's not going to matter because they've seen it already.
Right.
So as much as, and I like talking wrestling with people, but when people say, oh, this is corny because of this, I want to see chair shots. I said, well, hold your horses. I said, because chair shots to the head is not a thing anymore. I said, there's a thing called, concussions, there's CTE,
Right.
there's been advances, obviously, in studying with medicine that, you can't be taking chair shots to the head because bad things can happen to you.
I mean,
So
do you want a chair shot to the head? I don't think you do. So
no.
hard pass. Thank you,
Yeah,
though.
hard pass. Exactly. So, well, that, like I said, that does it for that pay-per-view. Like I said, and we're going to move on and talk about what happened after that. Was the announcement that TNA is coming back effective in 2024. And TNA is now going to be 22 years old next year. They started in the summer 2002, and they were doing weekly pay-per-views. That was their television. That was their distribution.
Mm-hmm.
Pay-per-views for $9.99 a week. That's how you got to see. So back then, when you got to see all these new names, you saw some old names. You saw some veterans coming in there. It was obviously, the company was started by Jerry and Jeff Jarrett, and they wanted to have an alternative, for what was going on, because there was at that point there was only one game in town. That was the WWE.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So they wanted to do something different. And obviously Ring of Honor had just got started too. Like, it was crazy how, like, Ring of Honor and TNA started the same year. Insane. And they're still around. But when you got to know these names, you were getting to know, like, AJ Styles and Samoa Joe and Christopher Daniels and Frankie Kazan. Like, all these guys were coming in and out. And obviously you had Raven coming in there. Then I know at one point, Vince Russo was running the show at one point. Dusty Rhodes was there. So there was a lot of people coming in and out. And again, it was a mix of legends, you know what I mean, that just kind of wanted to get one more run or whatever. And you had this crop of talent that just came out of nowhere. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I remember reading about Samoa Joe in WOW magazine back in 2000, 2001. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
When he was first getting started. So you knew about some. If you are a hardcore fan, if you bought the magazines, if you bought, if you read the dirt sheets or whatever, you knew who some of these people were. And I had nothing but high hopes for the company. So when you first heard about TNA, changing their name, what was going through your mind when that announcement was made?
So I was highly confused because I think there's so much history in the Impact name. And I was like, why are we changing it? Like, are we trying to rewrite history? Like, what's happening right here? Because when you think of TNA, you think of the Woo Off. You think of all of these great memories when TNA, everyone was like Impact. And honestly, at this point anyway, and I'm guilty of this as well, I used to call Impact TNA, and I still call it TNA. And I know
Same
it's
here.
not
Same
like
here.
we've all, because in my mind, it's
TNA.
TNA.
Right.
So like most people get pissed at me about that too, and it's like,
really,
yeah, people get pissed at me over it. People making my comments when I made it. I think I made one of my Jay Lethal videos. I referred to it as Impact TNA. People are like, it's not TNA. Okay, whatever you want to call it. That's
right.
Sure, you're right. I'm not gonna fight you. You are right, but like history.
Right.
So I am super excited, and again, I was super confused when they changed it from Impact, because it's like it'd be like NWA changing its name. Like, there's so much history in that, Tyler, so much history in that company. It's like, This is different. The WWE had to change their name because like legal issues. They had to go from the WWF to WWE. So like that's
Yeah,
one thing. But like it's just
yeah.
I don't know. And
The
then
World Wildlife Fund was like,
we're not doing that today or tomorrow. We're gonna need that
yeah.
name back. But that makes sense, right? Because you're being sued. Like, yeah, you got to change your name. Absolutely, trademarks matter. But I just never understood the change, and maybe because me and you are older, it's forever. It's TNA to us. Like,
Think about it. Think about this for a second. I just dug this up. Again, the name TNA, it was actually NWA, Total Nonstop Action.
Mm-hmm.
Then that was in 2002. Then from 2004 to 2017 was TNA. It was basically TNA.
Mm-hmm.
It turned to Impact as a brand in March of 2017. You know what I mean?
Ooh,
So, but think about this though. The name of the actual programming was called TNA Impact Wrestling.
Impact Wrestling.
That was the name. Like that was the name of the program. So I'm assuming that they're still going to keep that going because it makes sense. That's how it was before. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Now, obviously, they had that little. I think maybe in the middle of 2017. I know they were trying to change it to Global Force. Once I think Jeff got the company back or something like that, and then that kind of went away, and it was still, Impact Wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
But I just truly believe that company was solely responsible for so many gems, hidden gems that you would have never known about.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, think about if there was no TNA. No one would have known.
Kurt Angle run. I mean, like there are so many memories.
There's an argument out there that Kurt Angle's TNA run was better than his WWE run.
I'll die on that hill. I will die on that hill.
I can't argue it because it's like the banger matches that first of all, that match he had with Abyss, where my man did the somersault off the stage. I'm like, oh my God.
Oh, Perk Angle.
Perk.
Mm-hmm. I know he hates that. Sorry, my bad.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I will die on that hill. Like Kurt Angle had one of his best runs in TNA.
Like Matt Hardy discovered broken Matt Hardy in Impact Wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, obviously you look at Beer Money.
Yep.
America's Most Wanted before that. And then you had oh my goodness, you had the Main Event Mafia when Booker T was doing that African accent, the Jamaican accent, man. It was hilarious. You
had Jay Lethal in the Woo-Wop. You had Ric Flair. That's where AJ Styles, a lot of them were in there. Like a lot of people, there's a lot of history and impact that people kind of casually skip over. And I wish they wouldn't.
What I didn't enjoy at first was when it was becoming WWE light a little bit, because it was being presented that way. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think one of the biggest mistakes they made was when they brought Hogan in. I'm probably going to get bashed for that.
I'm not bashing you. I knew my stance on that.
I was in Times Square, I think maybe November, December of 2009.
Mm-hmm.
And in Times Square, they had a billboard, not the digital ones, because I don't think they were doing full digital yet.
Mm-hmm.
But it had Impact Wrestling that was Hogan in the middle. And I said, I don't know. I would have had him on there because he's Hulk Hogan.
He's gonna bring a name, but like I don't know if I'd had it as my focal point, like my visual.
Because if anything else, because obviously we didn't know that Jeff Hardy was going to show up. We didn't know that Flair was going to show up. But if I would have put the Joes and the Styles and all those guys, that's still New York City, and a lot of New York wrestling fans know who they are. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? But I understand they wanted to garner, the casuals, as people like to say, the casual fan. But that's something I wasn't necessarily a fan of him getting involved, because it just didn't make sense to me.
I will be interested to see what Jeff Jarrett has to say.
I don't think he has anything really to say, because you figure he has a very important job in AEW.
He did say that he was hurt when they did not invite him to the anniversary show this year. He did make he didn't make a full podcast about episode, but they brought it up. Conrad brought it up to him in whatever episode they were taping around then. Right. He did say that his feelings were hurt that he was not invited. So I don't think he'll have a full on episode about it, but I am curious to see I don't listen to Jeff Jarrett's podcast like that. I listen to clips. So I'll be curious to what clips kind of emerge this week or next week regarding that. Because like I said, he did say that his feelings were a little hurt that he was not invited. He understood why he wasn't invited, but deep down, his feelings were hurt.
I think Connie will bring it up this week on the show.
Oh, for sure.
He'll bring it up. He'll bring it up as far as hey, rumor and innuendo. Mm-hmm. Shout out to Conrad Thompson, the podfather and the owner of adfreeshows.com. He basically has a ton of
he got the podcast game on lock. But
he's also solely responsible for a lot of people coming back to wrestling, like Tony Schiavone. Mm-hmm. Bruce Pritchard was not interested in getting back.
He puts on Starcast.
Starcast. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. He's a very big name in the wrestling community.
Absolutely.
Regardless to how you may feel about him.
Yeah, I've talked to Conrad offline. He's a sweetheart. He's a good guy from my interactions with him. So again, kudos to Connie. Hope you're doing well, buddy. So they said that Hard to Kill is going to be the first, I guess, branded pay-per-view under the TNA umbrella. Mm-hmm. And now that the new year is coming, and as I said, mentioning maybe some free agents and that type of thing, could we see some people show up now that TNA is back? Names that we may have not thought that we would see again. You know what I mean? I think
it's possible. But we also have to keep in mind, too, some of the big hitters that were signed to TNA are all at AEW now, and they have that relationship where they can kind of float around and pop up on Impact if they wanted to. Mm-hmm. Do I think you're going to get AJ Styles there? No, he's a fake guy. He ain't popping up over there. Don't think that. But I'm not saying you might not get the Hardy Boys. They might show up. They're probably not going to put on a ladder match. No. But they might pop up over there because, again, AEW leaves the window open for talent to kind of float around a little bit. But as far as names that we haven't seen from in a while, I wouldn't rule it out. Because, again, nostalgia makes people do things. So if the rumors, I'm sure there are rumors floating that TNA was coming back. People are like, oh, you know what? Let me go see what that's about.
And Will Ospreay had nothing but the nicest things to say about his experience there, the backstage atmosphere, which, again, I can totally vouch. It is such a lax, and I'm not talking about lax in the sense that people lollygagging or whatever. No, it's just such a chill environment.
Not uptight. It's not intense.
No. So, literally everyone's getting along. Everyone's helping each other out. Wrestlers helping each other out with promos and all these other things. So I got to see, I got a bird's eye view of what it's like being there. So, for a lot of young wrestlers that are out there, that's on the indies, and a lot of people that I know personally, man, and I think Impact will be a great place for them to go, because right now, I mean, heck, listen, once upon a time, remember, TNA was the number 2 company in the world. Mm-hmm. Let's give them their flowers, because, I mean, they were getting about 1 million views a week. Mm-hmm. Because, I mean, think about it. I mean, WWE is barely getting 2 million views a week. Because this is how we consume entertainment now is far different than what it was 10, 15 years ago. Mm-hmm. Because you're dependent on clicks on social media, whether it's YouTube clicks, Twitter/X, Instagram, the list goes on and on of how people can consume their wrestling, because it is a lot of content out there. It is. I don't want to say it's an overflow, but I just think it is a lot of content to consume, and I just think that using some of those social media platforms as far as your viewership, I think is super important too. So what their ratings could be if they got on a major network, I'm not sure, but I'm pretty sure there'll be enough fans that'll tune in if you have the channels in those markets.
Even if you're just tuning in to be nosy, it still counts.
But think about it. You could be nosy and you can get hooked just like that.
And that's what I mean, right? You're tuning in because you're being nosy, and next thing you know, like, oh, okay, this is great. And regardless if you're being nosy, if your view is a view. So,
right. So I mean, like I said, this is going to happen effective January of 2024, where the name change is going to be. And like I said, I'm really interested to see, number one, are they going to bring the old belts back? You know what I mean?
I did read yes.
They are.
Read yes.
The one thing they're not bringing back is the six-sided ring. But here's what I would suggest. because again, you said it best, nostalgia, right?
Mm-hmm.
If they did one of their long-term pay-per-views or whatever, and maybe once or twice a year bring back the six-sided ring.
Mm-hmm.
Don't make it a permanent thing, because obviously, people get tired of it quick or whatever. But if you just maybe a little time here, a little there, or
Mm-hmm.
whatever, I think that's good, because
It brings you back, because why bring TNA back if you're not going to bring back some of the TNA classic things? I mean, you think of TNA, you think of that six-sided ring. If you know TNA, you think of a six-sided ring. So, like, again, if you want to sprinkle it here and there, like maybe not the first pay-per-view, but like maybe bring it back in the summertime, then bring it back again in the winter. That'd be cool.
Slammiversary, I think, so to be honest with you, I think Slammiversary would be a perfect time to do it. You know what I
Yes.
mean? Slammiversary would be a good event to do it. And like, oh, Bound for Glory, one of the Victory Road, those old, the original,
The OGs.
pay-per-view, the OG pay-per-views that they used to do, and bringing back the six-sided ring, because don't know if you knew that or not, but Hogan did not like the six-sided ring, which is why they got rid of it when he got there. He didn't understand it. He really just,
That checks out.
right. So I mean, it's like, well, it was completely different. You know what I mean? And like I said, I'm just hoping that however this rebrand goes, the fact that they announced it, at this pay-per-view, is that obviously the last one of the year.
Mm-hmm.
Huge. But you mentioned this a little bit ago, and I want to touch base on it a little bit, because I want to give some love to some people. But you mentioned the PWI Women's Top 250 in the world. Let's talk about it a little bit. I have the top 10 here. At number 10, it was Jordan Grace. Number 9 was Camille Brickhouse. Number 8, Willow Nightingale, my girl. Number 7, Deonna Purrazzo. Athena was number 6. Tom Nakano was number 5. Jamie Hayter was number 4. Bianca Belair number 3. Julia number 2. And number 1 was Mommy Rhea Ripley. Which one of those stood out to you the most?
So I'm gonna catch a little heat for this, but it's fine because I'm gonna put on my tank top. I could argue Rhea not being number one. The
Okay.
reason being is because I think that she is over as hell. I'm not gonna deny that.
Mm-hmm.
She definitely has the it factor, but the quality of her matches, as far as who she's going against, like her matches and her defenses,
Mm-hmm.
aren't quite hitting for me. Um, and I'm not saying she hasn't had good matches. Obviously, her and Charlotte killed it at Mania. Like I'm not going to deny that. But at the same
Right.
time, like if you're looking at the quality of her matches and the content, I don't know if it's number one quality. I like the top 10. I could argue the placement in the top 10.
Now, if you had the
I think
pencil,
Athena should have been higher.
okay, so if you had the pencil, which some of the ones you would have swapped out, where Athena should have been, or where should Rhea have been?
I would have liked to see Athena in the top 3.
Okay.
I don't argue Rhea being in the top 3 or 4. Bianca obviously needs to be up there. We're not going to argue that. But I do think that Athena has put Ring of Honor on her back. And I think that she has put on amazing matches. I think that she's over there killing it. I think Athena's on the best run of her career. And I think that she's often overlooked. I don't think her being I don't agree with her being number 6. I think that she should have been higher on that list. I'm not saying she needs to be number 1. Actually, she probably could. Honestly, if you look at the quality of her matches versus Rhea Ripley's, you could argue her being, again, top 3, maybe top 2. But I think Athena needs to get more love than what she's getting. I mean, even her promos, the minion and training thing, it's weird, but it freaking works. Athena's out there killing Ring of Honor, and because people don't watch Ring of Honor, she's not getting the credit she deserves.
Right. And I mean, and I think that's more or less that falls on Tony Khan in regards to getting Ring of Honor, especially in the women's side of things.
100%, because I feel it interesting that you have these pay-per-views where you have MJF defending and Adam Cole defending, and you have Samoa Joe defending, and then you stick Athena in a 6-person tag or whatever in the pre-show. It's like, so let me get this straight. You want me to take Ring of Honor seriously, but you have your women's champion and like an 8-person tag that was just thrown together. Like, I don't even understand how that match got there. But yet you have Samoa Joe and Claudio and you're Eddie Kingston out here defending these belts on the national stage, but then you got Athena who's like, oh no, my bad, y'all. Don't be mad. Don't blame and blow me up. I wasn't booked for the show. Like, it's not a me thing. It's you talk to whomever. So that I kind of struggle with that. And I believe me and you've talked about that before, where like the women are not getting their due justice, and it just bothers me.
Yeah, I mean, I was just looking at some of the lists. Becky Lynch was at 29. Io Sky was listed at 24.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I was just very, very shocked that Becky was as low as she was, considering, how she was
Yeah.
booked. You know what I mean?
Bailey being like whatever 26 or 27 was wild to me too, because it's like I understand why she's there. She has not had the matches that she normally has. She's been kind of more being in the background, and good for Bailey. But it's insane to me.
But Jade was listed at number 14, and at 15 was Roxanne Perez.
Mm-hmm.
Asuka, it was just like, wow.
Asuka should have been in that top 10 too. Asuka was right there at 11, I think.
Number 11, yeah.
She could have been in that top 10 easily. She should have been in that top 10.
But there's two ladies that I want to give some love to right now, and I actually had an opportunity. I've worked with them. One is Gabi Ortiz out of Philly, your Monster Factory girl. I love you. She's ranked number 245 in the world. Congrats to her. You can actually see her featured on our docuseries on Apple TV, Monster Factory. She has a compelling story. I think it's something you can really, really pay attention to. But she was ranked at 245, and also ranked at 185. My Jersey girl, Vicious Vicky. Again, I love you. She's killing it. I mean, she's working obviously at IWF, TCW, ISPW in North Jersey, and she was trained by Pat Buck, down at Wrestle Pro. She's a Wrestle Pro girl. And I met her at the world famous Monster Factory, when I first got started in wrestling. So, we bonded over Jersey Shore, believe it or not. And
love that.
Literally, we literally bonded over that a lot. So, but she's one of both of them are two of my favorite people in the business that I've worked with, currently and in the past. So I'm really, really proud of them, and a lot of girls on the indies that, really cracked, the 250, and they say that the one of the best wrestlers in the world, in the PWI. So congrats to them.
Congratulations to those ladies.
Absolutely. So obviously, this week, we have Raw tonight as we're taping this right now. And then there's, of course, NXT. I'm actually heading to Philly this Wednesday.
I'm so jealous. Oh my gosh.
I'm actually heading to Philly. So when you're listening to this, guys, it will be a Thursday morning, but I had to get this out of the way because I'm going to be extremely busy this week. But yeah, I will be going to Philly for AEW Dynamite / Rampage. And I got the bombshell. Oh man. Okada is going to be teaming with Orange
I literally
Cassidy.
was half asleep, and because I'm old, guys. Like, I call it spade a spade. Like, I usually watch wrestling in bed. I fall asleep on it, whatever. Judge
Yeah.
So I was half asleep, and I was heard like it's like Orange Cassidy. I was like, okay, whatever. And I was like, wait, is that Did Okada? Wait a minute. Like, I immediately jumped out of my bed and was like, okay, like, all right. What? I record these things again. I'm old. I fall asleep. I was like, rewind. Did I slip up on the Twitter streets? Oh, on a random Wednesday. I was like, right. And the guys don't know I live in Baltimore, so like about 2.5 hours out of Philly. I'm like, damn, I got things to do this week. But any other time, I would be like, you know what? I might have to just get sick on Thursday and have to call it in, because how often are you going to see that, right?
Yeah, it's cool. I'll be taking some pictures for you and all that. And I'll give my thoughts. I may do a special additional episode, maybe over the weekend or something like that, and talk about my experience at AEW's Dynamite. Kind of a special one I might do, just some bonus content or whatever the case. But before we get out of here, once again, Gabi, let them know where they can find you on social media.
You can find me on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok at Hi Gabi. So HiiGabii. And as always, thank you for inviting me on. I appreciate it.
Hey, like I said, you're a contributor. I consider you my official contributor to the D-Lou podcast on the wrestling end. I always wanted, another perspective, but I appreciate the fact that there's a lot of women that are in the wrestling journalism space. And I've always wanted, somebody with the knowledge that you have, to come on and give your takes, give your opinions, and intelligent opinions, I might add too. So
Thank you.
again, I thank you very much for what you contributed to the show, and I'll definitely be talking to you soon. Well, that does it for this week's edition of the D-Loop podcast. Once again, I want to thank Gabi for stopping by once again to recap some wrestling and all that is going on with TNA. I'm really excited to see what happens in the year 2024, not only with them, but the entire landscape of the world of professional wrestling. You know, this weekend, I have the honor and privilege of ring announcing a wedding, ladies and gentlemen. That's right, baby. I have emceed weddings. I've done that along with being a DJ at weddings. But I get to be an actual ring announcer for Meredith and Anton's wedding this coming Saturday. I'm so excited about it. You might see some snippets of it. So if there's any, future married couples out there that's looking for that ring announcer, especially if you're doing a wrestling themed style reception, call on your boy. I'm here for you. I'll introduce you as if this was WrestleMania, if this was SummerSlam, or Turkey Slam for that matter. So hit me up. Just shoot me a DM. But again, if you're listening to this podcast for the first time, or if you're just getting it, manually, again, I encourage you, no matter what platform that you're listening to it on, hit the subscribe button so you'll get content every week in addition to some bonus content that I may drop occasionally as well. Mainly leading into the world of professional wrestling if there's some breaking news that I have to talk about. So again, hit the subscribe button. I'm on all platforms, multiple platforms. So make sure you do that. All of my social media, with the exception of Facebook, okay, is at The Real DT Lew. So Instagram, Threads, X/Twitter, Spills, every single one of them, all of them, The Real DT Lew. Facebook is Derrick T. Lewis official page. Go to my store, all right? It's shop.derricklewis.com. Again, I have breast cancer awareness hoodies and tees, and all proceeds that I get from the sales of those two items will go directly towards the Breast Cancer Research Foundation. Make sure you check out their social media. They're a legit organization, and I promise you it's definitely for a worthy cause. And of course, my single is out, guys, making its rounds. Espacion, featuring the one and only Angie Stars, is on all platforms. The music video is on Vivo/YouTube, Apple Music, and Tidal. So make sure you get those streams up, share it with your family, your friends, your ex, whoever. Make sure you get it out to the people. And again, it's streaming every day on 99.7 The Heat Miami. Shout out to Radio Pushers, Jonathan P. Wright and the family over there. For giving my my music some love. They've been supporting me for the last 6 years, and I definitely appreciate all they've done for my music side of my career. Well, I'm gonna get out of here, guys, and as I always say, no matter what it is you do in life, always remember to make it count. See you next time.
Hi, it's Martha Stewart. I spend a lot of time thinking about dirt. At 3 a.m., at all hours of the day, really. What people don't know is that not all dirt is the same. You need dirt with the right kind of nutrients. New Miracle Grow organic raised bed and garden soil is so dense, so full of nutrient-rich, high-quality ingredients. Miracle Grow is simply the best.